The biggest battle that we will ever have to face is the battle between you and you. It's the battle of taking your mind to that limit and then breaking through. On the Mindful Experiment podcast, we will be interviewing individuals who have done that, who have gone through the struggles, who have tried to create a reality in all that they could. And when all the odds were against them, they made the impossible possible. I'm your host, Dr. Vic Manzo, and I want to thank you for being on the podcast and taking this journey with me as we go through and discover different avenues to break through those limits, different avenues to help you expand your reality so that you can evolve into the person that you desire to be. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey everyone, and welcome to another special episode on the Mindful Experiment as we are discussing and talking about Chapter 8 of my new book, Rediscover Your Greatness, A Guide to Creating an Inspired and Fulfilled Life. If you have not grabbed your copy yet, go to empoweryourreality.com. You can get 10% off the book, and it'll be an autographed copy by me. All you have to do is pay for the book and shipping. Or you can get it on Amazon, Kindle, Nook, Barnes & Noble, iBooks, audiobook coming out at the end of July. So check it out. Great book. Really good and deep insights. I share personal stories with concepts of what I've learned in the last 10 years, experiences of life, to help you empower your life to become more inspired, but even more importantly, fulfilled. Or more fulfilled. I don't think you can ever be really fulfilled. So, Chapter 8, we're talking about the language of the universe. Really going deep on this one. I start off with a quote as always. We are all cells in the body of humanity. We are not separate from our fellow humans. The whole thing is a totality. Love that. This is by a Peace Pilgrim. One of the things is about life is that there's a massive communication system. Everything has communication. Everything does. Everything communicates with one another. Your cells are all intercommunicated, and they're all communicating with each other all at once. Nature does this. You look at roots of the trees. They have a massive communication system. The fungus within the soil has a massive communication system. Our bodies with our nervous system has a massive communication system. Plants have a massive... plants. If you really want to see a cool movie, Netflix has it called... I think it's called The Life of Plants. And you'll be blown away with the interconnectedness of plants. For example, when you cut grass, everybody gets that smell of grass. What that really is a defense mechanism being released, letting grass know that it's being affected, and it attracts predators that actually go after grass, that eat the grass to protect itself. Or a bug has this is consciousness with plants, and there's such a massive communication system to it all that, like, for example, why are we having such gluten issues than ever before? Gluten's always been in food. How can we all of a sudden have an issue with it? What they're finding out is actually gluten has risen so much in plants by up to 50 to 90% because we mistreat them. And plants pick up on this communication of how we treat them with them and how we look at them and how they feel. They have emotions. Just because they don't have organs like we do doesn't mean they don't have emotions. And they create things to repel us or create issues so we don't bother with them as much. So there's massive communication. I even say in life, everything in life, all the issues you ever experience in life all come down to a miscommunication. In my own chiropractic office, I teach what's called in chiropractic a subluxation, which is basically a misalignment that causes nerve interference. This is basically nerve interference in the nervous system. I teach it as miscommunication because truly to me that's what it really means. We're looking at where is miscommunication happening within the nervous system, which is all related to function, and we're trying to see how can we clear out that miscommunication, be that mediator to help clear out the miscommunication so everything can function better, more at ease, and be in a more optimal state. As Nikola Tesla stated, if you wish to understand the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. Folks, that is the language of the universe. When we put that in there, one explains how the universe truly communicates, and it's through tone, it's through vibration, frequency. This is why music can move us so much in life, because music is truly tone, it's vibration, it's a frequency, and it can move us in a positive or a negative manner.
based on the vibration of that music. And one of the things what I love about what I do in my office is that I do tonal work. Tonal, having totality, employing variations in pitch to distinguish meanings of otherwise similar words. Tonal, tone, it's the communication of the universe. It literally means it communicates. The universe, when you break it down for the word that it is, it literally means one verse. It's one verse in a song. And we, all the souls that play in this big game called life, are all the musical notes to this one verse. But the universe cannot exist unless it has all its notes to play its song. You see, that's the power of you again. I try to emphasize that throughout my whole entire book, that the power of the uniqueness of who you are. I mean, when you really, truly realize, and I hate to say this word, wake up, because some people are like, oh, what do you mean? But when you really become aware of truly the power of who you are, you can never have self-worth issues. You never can be down again. You understand the power of what it is you are and the beauty and why you were needed and the essence of who you are. But, again, as always, I love bringing science to the table. And so I ask people, when you think of tone, it is easily understood, like a guitar string, the tone of a piano string and a key, the violin, the cello, so much more. The universe vibrates in a specific frequency that creates a tone. And science is really starting to get that. What I recommended you doing, if you don't believe that music plays a huge role on things, the vibration of it, the tone of it, and communicates in that way, go look up something on YouTube.com called the Resonance Experiment with Tones. This is something called cymatics. And what this does is it puts on a plate to show the resonance and the different shapes that will be created based on the different tone and vibration that you will hear. It's truly amazing. I highly recommend it. It will put in perspective of how tone can play an effect on the physical element. And if you're in a low tone, low emotions, low tone means you're going to experience low emotions, which means you're going to experience anger, frustration, guilt, shame, all those little things. When you're in a high tone, it means it's going to have a different vibration. And that vibration brings more joy, happiness, love, bliss, and so much more. So that is the essence when it comes to tone. Law of attraction works off this. The whole entire universe is governed by the law of attraction. The Secret really tried to share that as much as it could. Okay? But in a basic explanation, the law of attraction basically means likes attracts likes. In order for you to experience and manifest anything into your reality, you must be in resonance or the same tone as the thing you are choosing to experience. Okay? So I kind of explain in the book that if you're at a vibration at 400, but you want to experience things at 500, you will never experience 500 unless you raise your frequency and vibration to the 500. It is impossible for you to experiencing anything in the 500 range unless you are at 500, right? So if you've been following my chapter specials, summaries that we've been talking about, in chapter 7, I dive into the resistance. I dive into who gets in the way the most. And here's a massive way. When you get in the way, you interfere with your vibration. In chapter 2, if you've listened to that one, I talk about how focus. And when you focus on things, it's what's going to create your reality. And so focus plays a massive role. Every thought you focus on, every emotion you have, every story you believe in, every belief system you fall under, all of these things fall under this law and what create our reality. The law of attraction, the law of vibration, the law of manifestation, the law of frequency. All the same things, just different names. The second's emotions. Your emotions, you can have high emotions and low emotions. And there's so many things out there that you can look up. I don't have to create a new different way and say it's mine. Just look up frequency of emotions. Go to images.google.com and you can see charts that actually will show you positive emotion, negative emotion. Some will even give into the frequencies of each. I know the work by Dr. David Hawkins in Power versus Force, he really dives in. He can actually put in the frequency of what love is, joy, bliss, shame, guilt, anger, frustration, all those different things. And you can understand where you're at and how to work up the totem pole when it comes to emotions to try to experience higher vibrations. So this is why we have to choose our words wisely. This is why words become your reality. I shared the fabric to your reality, right? That's what I stated in chapter 3. The reason why is, again, because it's all about frequency. Words have a frequency and a tone. There's better choices of words that are going to have higher frequencies than lower. And these frequencies is what's going to create your reality in many different forms and for formats. Okay? Because every single day, these things are orchestrating the reality we are experiencing right now. And I know for some of you, you may be feeling this is hard work. And the truth be told, it is not. All it is a way to think differently than before. If it was a way to understand the inner workings of your world, your universe, and how you can create a more fulfilled and inspired life if you choose so. Because at the end of the day, what you're experiencing in your lifetime is all based upon you and you. Some things I just quoting from the book, but it's one of those things, guys, that, energy is everything in this world, and energy is based off vibration and frequency. So you can use this to your advantage to work towards it, right? And this is why I shared in my podcast when I went over chapter 7. I talked about how to know what a yes is and what a no is, and how to feel that, how to sense that. I shared how I feel, what it means to me, and how I sense it, and what it means to me. And the reason why is because when you're at a higher vibration, you feel better. You have a positive feeling within. If it's a lower vibration than where you are, you're going to have a lower frequency, a lower feeling. You see, and it's working like this all the time. And so when we look at this universe, it's all based on that frequency. And the thing is, how you know you're connected more to your higher source, you're going to have higher frequency feelings. When you're less connected to your source, you're going to have lower frequency feelings. And I couldn't make this any simpler because it's just the truth. You have to experience it now to understand, right? And I kind of talk about some people say, well, how do you know this all works? Well, it's the universe. This universe we're in that we're all experiencing right here, right now, that's the laws. But if we go to another universe, it's a different law. Totally different game. Totally different process. And I kind of explain that between different sports. If you think of sports, you can't apply baseball rules to football or football to soccer. And I mean soccer, not F-U-T-B-O-L, like the world sees it. I mean American football to soccer. You can't. So when you think of these sports, think of them as different universes. Just like careers. A doctor versus an accountant versus a lawyer versus customer service versus the teacher. You can't apply the rules to all those things all the same. Maybe some cross over here and there, but they're completely different experiences. And so the universes are the same way. So these are the laws. But the law in this universe, we have a law of attraction, law of vibration, law of frequency. So these are things you can work with and do. So look at the only way you can make transformation in your life when it comes back to you. And once you understand this concept I share in this chapter about the frequencies and laws and the vibrations, is that the only way you can transform your world to a different frequency or a different experience and a more higher, if you want, you have to change your frequency. And that's where everything that I've shared in the book so far ties up to that. Because insanity is repeating the same mistakes with expecting different results. I always thought this was by Einstein, but I found out it was Narcotics Anonymous that state that. But think about it this way, and I share some stories in this book, in this chapter, and I'm going to kind of summarize this in aspect to it. I dive into money, I dive into being the perfect 1%, the law of attraction, thought processes, and I said, and my quote is, you cannot have a different experience unless you change the tone of what it is you're relating to. That's the quote I left in this chapter. And I tie it into something very simple. And for this podcast, I want to keep it that simple as much as I can. Because every word you speak is an affirmation. The subconscious is always listening. Louise Hayes. And I also dive into, if I can get to this, David Hawkins and Abraham. So the concept here is this, guys. Understanding my chapter 8 of my book is very, very simple. Is that you have to look at the words you choose. You have to look at the thoughts you're focusing on. You have to look at every single thing, because everything is vibration, everything is energy. Whether you believe it or you don't, it's there, it exists. Whether you believe gravity or you don't, it's there. It's going to be there. Throw some off a building, it's dropping every single time, every single circumstance. Okay? It's the law of gravity. Law of attraction, same thing. Law of consistency. All the laws that I've shared in my book, they're laws. It's not something that is maybe. It is a law. It is stated and it works. So when you look at the law of attraction, and everything is attracted based on frequency. And so, law of attraction states a like attracts like. I've heard different definitions that say it's the most dominant thought that you're having within you that's going to attract the frequency of what you desire. For me, I like to say it's the thought that you continually focus on in a consistent manner that becomes the dominant thought of whatever it is you have that will determine your frequency. And it's real simple. They've studied this. They've looked at the immune system and looked at when you have one negative thought, just one, it actually lowers the function of your immune system compared to positive thoughts. They've looked at frequencies. There's studies called, and I talked about this in my book, Dr. Masaru Emoto, that he created the water experiment. Check it out. Look at images of it. It's a mind-blowing experience. That's law of frequency. Somatics, another way to prove, again and again, law of frequency and law of vibration, law of attraction. These are things that are out there, guys, that are proving this stuff works. So it's not woo-woo. I mean, I hear that sometimes. It's not woo-woo stuff. It's not witchcraft. It's not the things. We deny things that we don't understand. It's the easiest thing the human mind does. But you have to look at it from a different perspective and say, okay, if this guy here, me, myself, and I'm not the only one. There's many out there that are talking about this. But me, myself here is speaking of this, and I'm using sources to prove what I'm talking about, to have you go look deeper into this. My goal is just to be a beacon of light, to have you see something in a different perspective than what you see now, to try to create more inspiration and fulfillment in your life. It's that simple. So understanding the way the universe works, understanding that the universe is all energy, it's all tone. That's how it communicates. It always has, it always will. Once you grasp that concept, you start to take power back into your life, because now you understand that everything you do in your life is based on frequency. It's based on vibration. And you start to understand that, well, how do I, at least this was my first thought process when I first found this out over 11, 12 years ago, is how do I create a higher frequency? How do I experience a higher frequency? Once again, once you connect with yourself and you understand what a positive emotion is, love, happy, joy, bliss, and all those. Once you understand what that is, and this takes time, this is not something you learn overnight. This is not, I apply these concepts in a very logical way because that's the way the mind works, and I want it to work in a construct way to where you can take in these things. But to truly grasp the lessons, you have to go through the experience. No one else is going to teach you that. You can't read this book. You can't read my book and be a master at it. I've read a lot of books in my life. A lot. More than the average. And yet, just this weekend, I was on vacation. And while I was on vacation, I think I read about 4 books. Now, I don't like to say, well, I read this many books and ha, ha, ha. I don't care about the number of books I've read. I read one time over 100 books in a year. And what's sad about that is I didn't implement much of the stuff I read into my life. So what was the purpose? I get these things about the best CEOs read 60 books a year. That's great. How much do they implement in their lives? And for me, now I read books and I take one thing out of it. Just one. There may be more, but I take one big thing out of it. What did I like that I want to implement and use in my life and keep that principle to be part of me? And it takes time. And this is going to take time just with this work. This is new concepts for many, and if it's not, this is old concepts, but it has a new way of being explained to where you can utilize that to help you truly experience the best of who you are, to truly raise the vibration as much as you can. Because one thing I know is that the higher the vibration you go, the higher the tone you are at, the more inspired and more fulfilled you will feel with your life. And the more and the higher you go in that aspect, it just continually becomes more. Because the beautiful thing about this whole process is it's never ending. The beautiful thing about this whole process is it just never stops. There's no end to it. You can never be the most inspired and the most fulfilled because there'll be also more that you want to be fulfilled and inspired to. It's just the way we are as a soul. So when you look at this chapter and you look at how to, right? How do you raise your vibration? Focus on positive emotions. Focus on your dreams. Focus on your visions. Really focus on what it is you desire that you want to experience in your life. What brings joy to you? You see, your emotions dictate that. I talk a lot about that in Chapter 7 of my book. But Chapter 8, I talk about, again, the tone and how does that relate? Because I share a concept, but now I'm bringing the science. I share a concept, now I'm bringing the science. I want you to understand in a deeper level of understanding how it all works. You see, when you choose to do something or experience something, if you don't feel that great or feel like you just have to get this done, you're not going to enjoy it that much. But if you're like, man, I want to experience this. Man, well, let's say it's a trip. Maybe it's a cruise. Maybe it's traveling on the road. Maybe it's a car. Maybe it's a house. Maybe it's happiness, bliss, joy. For me, I focus more on the things that are intangible. I care more about the things that money can't buy. Because to me, I truly believe that's what life's all about. Connectiveness, centeredness, experiences, growth. Growth with myself. Growth with, learning about myself more. Reaching my potential, being the creator I want to create for my life. Because money can't buy those things. You can't use that to buy and to get. You have to experience and go through it and realize it and play with it and practice it. Be the kid-like again. Because life's a game. And once you understand these concepts that I'm sharing in this chapter with all the other concepts I shared in my book, man, life will never be the same again because you start to realize the power of who you are. You start to realize that you do have control. And you have control in more ways than you can ever imagine. I'll share this with a story. And the story was this. When I was a kid, still am though, to some opinion. But when I was younger, I used to think of that when I hear people worry, I always used to say that what you worry about, you're going to create. Not understanding what I know now. But I always said it. I remember in high school, I used to tell my mom, friends, what you worry about is what you create. What you worry about happens. What you don't worry about never happens. Not understanding universal laws back then, but I understood instinctively what that meant. And it's amazing to this day. Most things you worry about on a consistent basis happen. Your mind is so powerful. There was a Russian man who used to work on the trains. And he used to work on the cargo part aspects to him. And what he would do is every time there was an empty train, he had to go clean the train out, the cart and everything. And this is not where people sit. This is where cargo goes into. It's those sliding doors that latch in. So every time he would have to put a thing there, the block, just in case if the train moved while he was in there cleaning, the door wouldn't close shut on him. And, if the door closed shut, he has about 90 minutes of air and to breathe for oxygen because it's sealed. And if the vent's closed, that's what happens. And then the coldness will kick in and you'll freeze to death because it's in Russia, northern Russia. What ended up happening in this story is that one day, the door shut on him. He knew he had 90 minutes left of air. He was making noises, banging, doing all that he can. And when they finally got there to open it up, he was dead. Now, when they went to the coronary got an autopsy and they looked at everything. They looked at it and they said, the chances of what happened to him when he died is he froze to death. That was the cause of death. Now, it made sense, right? I just shared with you that when it closes, you have 90 minutes because the vent's closed. You have 90 minutes of oxygen. After that, the freeze will come over and you'll freeze to death. Makes sense. But when they checked the cart, when it was closed, the vent was open. So he couldn't die of lack of oxygen. Yet it was cold, but it wasn't cold enough to freeze. But yet he froze to death, based on what the coronary report said. As they asked the coroner how could this happened, said it had to be from the mind, because nothing else can. There was no way he could have froze because of the temperatures and how it was during that whole time frame. That is how powerful your mind is. And understanding the law of attraction is that this man probably feared being locked in there and freezing to death. That was probably a big fear of his. But he thought about it so much that he made his body actually freeze to death. Now, some of you may go, impossible. I would agree with you. But the mind is that powerful. The mind, you can make yourself sick if you think about it, right? When you're starting to get sick, what do you say? I'm getting sick. You make a statement. I don't know how many people are better after saying, I'm getting sick. Instead, say, my body's fighting this and I will win. Different story. You change the concepts. Careful with what you think. The law of attraction is working at all time, and it has no emotions. And what that means is it doesn't go, wow, I feel bad for this person. They had such a hardship. Maybe we can just give them a little luck. Nope. Doesn't work that way. Law of attraction goes by what you state because it's designed to give to you what you desire. And once you understand tone, once you understand vibration, you start playing with this. Play with your emotions. See what feels good, doesn't feel good. What feels good, it's an intuitive feeling. It's something deep within. It's like a little child being happy. It's something within. When you get that happy feeling, keep going with that. That's the path of least resistance. Keep going with that. That's the tone that's going to create what it is you desire more of. That's higher vibrations. That's how you attract more in your life. So check it out. Again, if you haven't checked out my book, Rediscover Your Greatness. It's on Amazon, Kindle, Nook. We're coming out with the audiobook at the end of July. And last but not least, if you want to get an autographed copy by me, 10% off on the sale price, retail price, go to empoweryourreality.com and check that out. And as always, guys, it's a pleasure having you on. If you haven't also subscribed to our email list, we share some great concepts. I share the podcast. I share some tips, things going on. Events we're having. We got some programs coming out. I want you guys, if you want to get involved, if you want to listen to this and tap in, please go to Empower Your Reality and subscribe to our newsletter so we can get you guys connected. I don't spam you. I don't write too many emails, maybe 2 to 4 a month. But we got some cool stuff coming out, cool online programs coming out. One of them is free for a whole week. Love to have you check that out. So definitely go to Empower Reality, get subscribed so you don't miss out. And as always, thank you again for your support. Thank you again for listening. And keep rocking and rolling. Until next time, we'll keep moving along. Thank you for listening to the Mindful Experiment podcast. For past shows, please visit www.empoweryourreality.com. I hope this show inspired you and added to your life to help you rediscover who you really are, to break through those limits. For connecting with us on social media, please check us out on Facebook at www.facebook.com/empoweryourreality. You can check us out on Twitter. Our handle is Dr. Vic21. And also check us out on Instagram. It's instagram.com/Dr. Vic Manzo. And as always, if this show you found to be helpful for you, by paying it forward and sharing this podcast with someone that you know who could benefit from it. And last but not least, if you liked the podcast show, please give us a review, 5-star. We'd appreciate that. Thank you for listening to the Mindful Experiment, helping you discover your infinite potential.